guys, this is Frank from Earth MotorCars, and I want to introduce to you probably one of the coolest cars that came out in the 70s. And behind me is probably the nicest 1970 Boss 302. This thing is just amazing. 4-speed transmission, shaker hood, which makes this car stand out, rally wheels, correct bias tires, car light glass. I mean, it has everything to make this car just a complete showstopper. Great thing is, it's available. Competition yellow, some people call it, called yellow to some other people as well. It's a very, very original car, original drivetrain car, and I'm gonna go through and show you the detail. Restored, completely restored. Paint, it's enamel paint, it's correct paint. Engine is correct to the car. Transmission's correct, the interior has been restored. Just a wonderful car. So if you look at the lines of the car, the caliber of the paint, I mean, you can really see through it. I'm not even sure if Ford painted them this good back in the 70s, but you know what? We did a real good job on this one. One of the real cool features is that right there. That's your shaker hood. Super, super, super rare option on this car. Not only that, it's an extremely desirable option on this car as well too. And the shaker hood is for air intake. More air in the engine produces more horsepower. Any detail on this car, if you look at everything is correct on it. The emblems are correct. They are original to the car, which is very, very rare as well. The bumpers have been re-chromed. So if you can look at the quality of the bumpers on these things, the headlights are correct. They're not original, obviously, but they're correct headlights for the car. And if we go through here, you see the striping, exactly how this car looked in 1970. This is probably a little better version than a 1970 as well, but it's a fantastic car. If you look at the rally wheels on this thing, they're wrapped in polyglass tires. These are biased tires. These would be the correct tires that came with the car. No, they're not original, but Goodyear does a really good job of making a new version of that with the same type of material. So biased tires, not highly recommended to drive on. For show, you need it. It's a mandatory thing. If you look at majority of the glass in the car, one thing that I really noticed when I purchased this car was I noticed all the little glass emblems. This is original glass to the car. It's really difficult to see what's car light right over there. And I looked at every windshield with the exception of the front windshield. This is something that I saw on every single window. So coming around back here, one of the dealer installed options that you really see a lot are the louvers back here and then the spoiler. Correct for the car, made for the car, but it was an option that was dealer installed. Even back here, if you look back here, you got your little car light emblem, right? You can still see it. So it's telling me that the original glass back here still remains intact as well as. You know, one of the other things about the Boss, I mean, this is the little brother of the Boss 429, which we have one as well. Small block, big block. The rarity of the Boss 429 obviously makes it a super special car. MSRP on this car new was around $3,000, $3,200. And options that would be included would be the shaker hood, would be the deluxe interior, the manual transmission, the rear louvers that were dealer installed, the spoiler dealer installed. So these are optional items on the car. But come on and check this out too. If you look at just a level of restoration, if you look at the wheel wells, look how beautiful. Painted the same color as the car. This car would have came like this from the factory. And then most dealers would probably undercoat in here. Undercoating was a real big thing back then. If you look at the front has been done. It's been undercoated, so you can see when you look inside there, you see all the black that's in there. And then if you look towards the front part of the tire, you'll see the red oxide, which was correct for the undercarriage of the car. You can see a part of the frame right there that was painted. So the front end of this car would have been red oxide. The center of this car would have been a slop gray. And this is what the Ford technicians did back in the day. On a Friday, on a Monday, they had leftover paint. They would paint the underside of these cars whatever color they have, and the name of the color is called slop gray. A combination of blues and grays and blacks, so it's pretty neat. If you look under the hood here, we'll pop under the hood. Highly, highly detailed engine compartment. You got your correct markings on here. You got your 8 production numbers right there. On the back of the firewall, you had your separate inspectors, the T, the B, the F, and the P. So you had a frame person. You had somebody that took care of the paint, and there's your P, and so forth and so on. If you look at the Autolite stickers in the correct spot right here, everything to this car is pretty original to the car. This is the original decal. This has never been taken off, never been painted. On the other side, if you're looking on this side here, which is really cool, all the hoses are correct hoses. They're all Autolites. They're reproduction hoses, but they're all date coded right there as well. So it's telling you a C9 is a 69. Well, they use these hoses in 69 and 70 for this kind of car. Right up here, the battery inspector would literally go. He would put a decal on here. He would tell you that the battery's been inspected, and this would tell you the voltage on the battery, and this would tell you the date it was signed off on. The other thing that's super cool, and you can really tell the high detail of this car, is the Autolite alternator. Stamped Autolite, that's exactly what it looked like from the factory. Super, super cool. Going back a little bit on the snorkel, you can see the exhaust emissions control detail, which was correct for the car. And the one thing that I really, really like is the spark plug wires. If you look at the spark plug wires, they're the radio resistance, they're the Autolite spark plug wires. But those are date code correct as well. Really, really neat to see that kind of detail. You have your little tag right in here. Before you run off, I wanted to show you this, which is super cool. And this is our body code. Not only is it body code, it's telling you the color of the car. So this is the original color of the car. On a high-end detail, you'll see all the nuts and bolts being correct, like this one is right here. Everything is correct for the car. The details here, the color of the shock absorbers are correct. You can see the different colors between the black and you can see the cast color. That is also correct for the hood springs on there too. Detail underneath the hood. This is just another inspector on the car that inspected the car, that approved off on the car. Everybody in Ford had their own separate job, and they all had to sign off on different things that they did. So the stickers, the paint, underside of this car is just amazing as well. It's highly detailed. It's correct for the car. You can see the original color markings like green, and you can see the yellows. And once again, the yellow could be the inspector for suspension. The green could be the steering inspector. Everybody had their own color, so they knew when these cars went through the production lines, this is how they would track. Okay, it's been through color, it's been through suspension, and it's been checked as well too. Closing this hood, let's take a peek inside this car. This car is pretty spectacular inside as well. You got your deluxe interior. These seats are awesome seats. They've been redone as well, and you can see there's no bolster wear on them at all. This is a manual transmission car, which makes it a little more desirable. While the steering wheel is not correct for the car, we do have the original steering wheel with the car, and we tucked it in the back seat. It's not as good looking as that, but it's back there. So you can take a peek at that. No power steering on this car. It does have disc brakes, which is nice. You have your little sticker. This is a reproduction sticker, but this is exactly what it would have looked like from the factory. It's telling you the VIN number of the car. It's telling you the body code, the date codes. So you can literally go through this tag and you can decode a majority of this car between this and the data plate that's in the car. It'll tell you exactly what this car was when it was brand new. What I'd like to do for you guys now is take it for a little spin. I think you guys will be really impressed. This thing it's a real silent muscle car. It's not one of these loud, over obnoxious cars. When they built the Boss 302, they built it for competition. They built it for speed, but they also built it to surprise people. They wanted to make sure that when you pulled up to somebody, you weren't hearing this massive rumble. You were hearing this really quiet, relaxed car that just had a ton of power. Love these cars that are 40, 50 years old that start right up. Mid-City Mustangs just did a complete engine rebuild on this thing. They got about 15,000 receipts of that, 15,000 receipts on that. And then we have other stuff as well, totaling over 30,000 bucks. Emergency brake. Looks like a 33,000 mile original car. No power steering, so we're gonna work a little bit on it here. Take this bad boy for a little bit of a spin. Of power on it there. Transmission feels absolutely wonderful. Even though it doesn't have the power steering, Once the car starts moving, it really isn't very difficult to drive this thing. It's actually a really easy car to drive. Just being behind the wheel. It's awesome. Just awesome car. Tons of power as well. Being the smaller of the engines, obviously the 302 versus the 429. One thing you'll see, the weight ratio of the engine and the torque and the power of this car for a small block is just incredible. Steering radius, I mean, that's a really tight little turn there. Awesome car. Just a wonderful, wonderful engine rebuild by Mid-Cities. The braking is incredible. It's got power discs. Sort of like a modern braking system on this car. 50 years ago. Want to get a lot of attention, you definitely want to get yourself competition yellow boss.